What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the LivBtr Podcast. I am your host, Jay Siano, CEO of Sabre Advisors. On today's podcast, I have my dear friend, Dr. Sean Pastuch. Dr. Sean Pastuch is the founder of Active Life. Dr. Sean and his team have helped tens of thousands of people. He began working as a personal trainer in 2005 and earned his doctorate in chiropractic medicine from the Northeast College of Health Sciences in 2009. By 2013, Dr. Sean had owned 3 CrossFit affiliates and a physical rehabilitation clinic that proved the concepts of his counterintuitive approach. He exited these businesses in 2018 to create and pursue Active Life full-time. Dr. Sean and I are all over the place talking about all the things healthy lifestyle, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
I just wanna have peace. Pay for the bill, let them take my card, never see the receipt. Good health, we prize, but everybody around prosperity.
What's up, guys, and welcome to the LivBtr Podcast. This is your host, Jay Siano, and this is the show for people trying to optimize every area of their life. Let's go.
I just wanna have peace.
Dr. Sean Pastuch, welcome to the LivBtr Podcast.
I'm excited to be at the LivBtr Podcast, Jason Siano.
I'm excited to hang out with you anytime I get a chance to hang out with you. So.
It's been more lately, which has been pretty cool.
It has, which is exciting, and let's keep that going.
I'm in for that.
Dr. Sean, tell me about Active Life.
Oh God, that's like saying who are you? That's a big question. So Active Life is it is the natural evolution. It's what would obviously happen for a person like me growing up the way that I grew up and having the experiences that I had. To make a really long story short, what we started doing was help people get out of pain without going to the doctor from anywhere in the world. And that turned into the coaches who were previously working with those clients saying, hey, I couldn't get these results from my client locally. What did you do from around the world? So then we started to develop coaches to do the same thing that we were doing. And then along the way, we realized that people were coming to us for pain. They were in pain. They would come say, my leg hurts, my knee hurts, my back hurts. But the reality is they really didn't care about the pain at all. They thought they did. But what they cared about was the compromises that the pain was forcing them to make.
Got it.
And so it was, I want to be able to get on the ground with my kids. I want to be able to play sports. I want to be able to socialize, go on hikes, whatever. And I can't do that. So we think of success for ourselves as we don't just help the person get out of pain or help the coach help the person get out of pain. We help the person at the end of the line, the one that we're supporting, get the thing that the pain was stopping them from doing.
Got it. Yeah, that's powerful because that really, I've been in pain. I have numerous injuries I've dealt with over time. There's no real, nobody's safe from injury or pain. So I'm assuming the age range is pretty wide, but at the same time, you probably have an older population.
The age range is wide, but our average client is in their 50s.
Yeah.
And there's an alarming statistic that over 50 million Americans woke up today in chronic pain, which means they've had pain for 3 months or more. They've tried at least one intervention and it failed. Yeah. And now those people generally think they have to live with it. They go to the doctor tells them if it hurts, don't do it. They go to the trainer says if it hurts, we can work around it. That person doesn't want to hear either of those things. They're the same answer. And so what we specialize in is helping that person do those things, not work around those things, and helping the coach help the person do those things.
And it's a different type of a coach that's interested in helping people get out of pain versus interested in squatting more and so on and so forth, right?
Interestingly enough, I think generally speaking, most trainers, coaches would rather do what we're doing with clients if they understood that it took a completely different education, different life experience, different conversation, and a different client avatar than what they're working with right now. Because a lot of coaches can help people reduce their pain. And a lot of people like you, for example, with a high training age, who may experience some pain, but like you want to go back to pushing the margins of what you can do.
Sure.
Coaches are very well situated for a lot of people like that right now. But there's this audience of people who are above the age of 40, generally speaking, who don't feel comfortable walking into a regular gym. So while the coach thinks they're already working with these people, They're not.
Right.
And when you start working with these people, you realize there is nobody competing with you for these people's attention, these people's money, these people's hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
And so I think most coaches, if they understood the gap between where they are and what we're doing for clients, would actually prefer to do what we're doing. They just don't know what they don't know.
And you have some history at Equinox and other places. Was there something that happened that inspired you to create Active Life?
Yeah.
Give me a little background on that.
So it starts in 7th grade, believe it or not.
Okay.
So I'll be brief about that, then we'll go straight to Equinox. In 7th grade, I thought I was the coolest kid in the world, and then I got bullied one day by an 8th grader who was more than twice my body weight. I felt like, I was like, this is not good. I went home. I was afraid.
I've been there. I right around the same age. Yeah.
Okay. So my father says to me, go back to school tomorrow. Because I came home early, and then he came home from work. He's like, well, I heard you came home early. What happened? I told him the truth. And he's like, tomorrow you're going to go into school and you're going to challenge him to a fight. It's like, Dad, he's got kids my size. What are you talking about? I'm terrified. And he's like, well, you're either going to hurt him and everyone's going to know not to mess with you, or he's going to beat you up really bad in front of everybody. No one's going to be surprised. But at least everybody will know they have to go all the way if they want to pick on you. It's like, this sucks. So I walk into school the next day. I was more afraid of my father than I was of Anthony. Challenge Anthony to a fight. We don't get into one. He's like, nah, you're cool. And that was my first and really only significant experience with bullying where I was like feeling like I was less than.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I see people as being bullied by the systems that don't realize that they're even bullying people. When you tell somebody, if it hurts, we can work around it. When you tell somebody, don't do it. If it hurts, don't do it. You're not bullying that person on purpose, but that person wants an unrestricted life of freedom without compromise.
Right.
That's a compromise. So I was at Equinox, and I became full-time in 5 weeks. And for people who know anything about Equinox, it typically takes like 6 months. The reason I got there is I was working with the people nobody else wanted to. I was working with Barry, who had ALS. I was working with Dr. Gary, who was 100 pounds overweight, knee pain, back pain, couldn't walk up the stairs, but he was advising the president on healthcare policy, and he felt like a fraud. I was working with these kinds of people. And it was so easy to fill my book of business because nobody else was trying to meet these people where they were.
Sure.
I would take them up to the physical therapy suite, and I would ask the people in physical therapy, what do I do with this person? I don't know how to help someone with a bad knee or a hurt knee. And they would say, look, he's a little bit old for this stuff, find a different way. If it hurts, don't do it. Work around it. And I was just so uninspired by that advice from the physical therapy department.
It's terrible advice.
It is. But that's what we're told. That's what we're taught.
Yeah.
And so I left personal training, went to chiropractic school, thought I would save the world, came back and didn't really love that either.
Yeah.
You start questioning, is it me? Is it them? Is it just I have to find something that I love? And I had turned down, actually not yet, I hadn't. But so I opened my own gyms, my own clinic to do things my way, started kind of doing some soft tissue work, some chiropractic work, some training. We had a big steel door that separated the clinic from the gym floor.
Sure.
And I would tell people, when we walk through that door, I'm your coach. When we walk back through that door, I'm your doctor again. So, it became like, okay, where's the scope? I started to realize where the scope for each was. Called my malpractice insurance company. I was like, hey, if I do these things with a patient, am I covered if they get hurt? No. Okay. Call my professional practices liability insurance company, who, if you're a personal trainer, you don't have that, get that. I call them.
He just broke the fourth wall. That means it's important.
Yeah, that was for you.
That
guys.
means it's important.
Yeah. So I call them. If I do this and somebody gets hurt, am I covered? Yeah. Oh, okay. So this is a coach's scope, not a doctor's scope.
Right.
And then I started teaching coaches how to do what it was that I was doing that was not what the doctor was doing. And so, along the way, you start to see this work for people. You start to see lives change. You start to get, speaking candidly, the ego reward of people saying, thank you so much, you've changed my life, both the individual at the end of the line and the coach who you teach to do it for the individual at the end of the line.
Sure.
And it's intoxicating.
Yeah, you're really making a major difference in somebody's life.
That's the ambition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I just going through injuries, and there was a stretch of time where I could not walk normally for, recently in the last few years, where I couldn't walk normally for a solid 4 months. Mm-hmm. And you start to think, is this ever going to am I ever going to feel 100% again? And it impacts everything. It impacts your mental, it's a very Very frustrating process.
So I was talking two things. One, I was talking this morning with a mutual friend, and I was just telling her.
We have a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, you know who this one is, and I don't want to
sure.
sell her out.
Yeah.
And I told her how proud I am of her and how much she's grown and how fun it's been to watch her win.
Yeah.
And a year and a half ago, this person had told me, like, I don't know if I'll know when I've made it. I don't know if I'll know how to feel when I've made it. And I'm like, I don't think you will.
Yeah.
Because I feel the same way. And the ambition isn't for a dollar amount. It's not for a follower account. It's to change people's lives. And there's always going to be another person whose life you want to change and another person whose life you haven't been able to change. And so you're focused on that. And I resonate with that.
Yeah.
The other
that
side,
was this morning?
Yeah.
It's funny because, that same individual is like, I think also doesn't think that they've, accomplished a lot at the same time, and that says so much about the type of person that is wired that way.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's
how you get there.
It's exactly how you get there and stay there and go further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so, because I'm trying to walk a similar path.
Of course.
The other story is I was talking to an ex-professional fighter turned coach of professional fighters yesterday or 2 days ago, and he's dealing with severe neck pain. But I know what he's dealing with is temporary. He doesn't know that what he's dealing with is temporary. And I know that when the discomfort goes away, there is work to be done to make sure that it doesn't come back. And I know these things because I have the exact same condition that he has. And so we get onto a call. I'm talking to him about what's going on with him and asking him questions. And he's like, yeah, how are you? Like, these questions are way too close to home.
Does it have anything to do with like fighting or how they use their body?
Probably, but the way I got mine was handstand push-ups in a CrossFit gym. The way he got his was probably getting punched in the face or snapped down.
Right. Same kind of.
Yes.
Yeah. Got it.
So, we both got hit in the head.
Exactly. Just differently.
Yeah. So, to make a long story short, it doesn't matter how tough you are.
Right.
You have those thoughts. You have is this the rest of my life?
Of course.
And, fortunately, almost always the answer can be no if you want it to be.
Almost always.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this was like I would say we talk about what you do a lot. We talk about active life. We obviously, you have a physical location in Long Beach, New York, which is not far from where my main office is. It's a very unique space. It's very, really built out very nicely.
Thank you.
Of course. And you're doing a lot of things, obviously, remotely as well. You have more than one service line. And as we talk about that, it's interesting because the theme of like pain, I don't know if that landed on my brain the same way that it did just now. And that makes so much sense. That differentiator I'm saying makes so much sense because that's really...
Sorry, it's an interesting thing because I've really struggled to talk about it for a long time.
Yeah.
And the number one thing I've been working on is what is something that I can say that everybody will understand. And then what I believe I've landed on is that 50 million Americans woke up in pain today, and they've been in pain for 3 months or more despite medical interventions that have failed them.
Yeah.
But what if I told you that pain is not the problem? The problem is the compromises that pain forces us to make. And that is the missed activities. It's the vacations not taken.
Right.
It's the not getting on the ground with the kids. It's the lies that we tell.
Yeah.
Right?
You sound like somebody else that we know. It's all,
it's
all tying together.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'm a student.
Interesting.
I'm a student.
Yeah.
I was at an event this past weekend. I was giving a talk, and I spoke from the stage about this. And when I spoke about it's not the pain, it's the compromise that, like, you say it's not the pain, you watch the room, be like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And then the next line is, it's the compromises the pain forces us to make. It's the missed vacations. It's the activities we don't play anymore. It's the exercise we modify. It's the lies that we tell. And I watch the audience just start nodding the way that you were just nodding.
Totally. It makes so much more sense when you put it that way because, oftentimes my brain's thinking about like the preventative nature of doing the work up front to prevent yourself from not being able to play with your grandkids when you're older and so on and so forth. But the pain point is very, very different, you know? So that's it makes so much more sense.
Well, you know what? I don't want it to. I want people to invest in their future. The reality is people don't think that way. You do, I do.
Yeah, but I think people are dealt also people are dealt different circumstances, right? Like you have pain from doing CrossFit. The coach you referenced earlier has pain from fighting, right? And then there are people that are just going to be in pain from different things and aging. Yeah. Right?
What I mean when I say they don't typically think in the future is we know that more than 83% of people do not have a gym membership and do not exercise.
Which is such a crazy thing to think about in today's day and age where it's like all the rage.
It's not when you zoom in.
Right.
Like it is when you're zoomed out and you're like, these people are healthy.
Well, we're also in the space, so you just kind of like feel like you're surrounded by people that are
and right. So fit. It's easy to feel that way when you're in the space, looking in the space. But when you zoom out and then re-zoom into the audience that's not in the gym and you start asking them questions, it's very obvious why they're not in the gym.
Why?
They don't feel welcome. They don't feel served. They don't feel understood. There's a lot of, in the fitness industry, we talk a lot about, meeting people where they are. But then at the same time, we say things like when they make it their priority, they'll come and I can help them.
Right.
No, that's backwards. We have to give those people a good reason to make it their priority. They have to believe it's going to work. Otherwise, they're not going to do it. Somebody walks, before we opened Active Life in Long Beach, right, where you just said that you came and you looked and it was beautiful, and I appreciate that. Yeah. I interviewed over 100 people who don't go to the gym.
Right.
To ask them, why don't you go to the gym? You have, or you've never, but why don't you go anymore? The number one answer I got from 100 people was, I don't feel comfortable in the gym because I don't know where I'm supposed to be or what I'm supposed to do. The where I'm supposed to be was a curious one to me. So I asked, what do you mean where you're supposed to be? Well, I don't want to be in somebody's way. I don't want to use somebody else's equipment. Like that's a reason not to go? Yeah, it's just uncomfortable. Like that's so foreign to me. So foreign to me. And
it's not, believe it or not, it's not that foreign to me because I've been at a place and not that long ago where I felt like, it's got to be, call it, it was over 10 years ago, let's say, but there was a boutique, like boot camp class that was near the house that I lived in at the time. And I would drive home and I would see these people, like running around the block essentially. And like, I didn't know what went on inside the place. I don't know what it looked like. And I was not in terrible condition. I was not as dialed in as I am today, but that was intimidating to me. Like I would literally sit there and ponder like what it would be like to go inside the space and would I feel comfortable and and that's probably sounds, and even like today if I'm walking into, I get invited all the time to different gyms and group fitness classes of all different obviously skill sets and with lunatics of all different shapes and sizes. And there's always like an intimidation factor when you're walking into something that's a little bit unknown. And obviously, if I feel that way, of course, Susie or John, who have never stepped foot in a gym, are going to feel, that magnified even more than I do.
Sure.
So it's not surprising.
The other thing is people who are not engaged in fitness today don't share the values that fitness shares.
It fixes everything in your life.
It can, right? But
it does.
But that's not what I'm talking about.
No, I know that, but I'm saying
it does.
I just have to say that.
I agree with
you. It's changed my life.
I agree with you. And a lot of the marketing from the fitness industry is abs, ass, ego, sex appeal.
Yeah.
And
that's the byproduct.
I know it is. Yeah. But that's what's put out front because the fitness industry is used to attracting the fitness person.
Sex sells.
Yes. To the person who's looking for sex.
Correct. Which is why when you're talking about pain and everything you're talking about, it's so unique because I'm so used to exactly what you were saying. Continue.
Yeah. Most of our clients have no interest in a six pack.
Yeah.
Like the thought has never even crossed their mind. They have no interest in training as often as they can, as hard as they can. They want to exercise as little as they need to so that they can live the rest of their life.
Yeah.
They don't know what their PR is. They don't care about the body composition measurements. They just want to know that they're feeling better and moving better.
Yeah.
So those things happen. They start to look better. They start to move better. Their body composition does improve. But when we ask them what they're happiest about, that's at the bottom of their list. Mm-hmm. It was never at the top of their mind, and it was never at the top of their list. And it takes a very different kind of conversation from the physical to the communicative like this to actually meet that person.
Yeah.
Like in our space, I told the designer I wanted to be practical, approachable, understandable, and distinct. Those 4 words. I was like, it needs to be these 4 things.
Yeah.
And I gave him pictures of the lobby at the Mandarin Oriental and an Equinox.
Yeah.
I'm like, have it marry these 2.
Yeah.
And do those things.
And you did that.
I appreciate it.
So I walk in off the street into active life, and I am somebody, that's less familiar with working out. It's not something that I do frequently. What does your team do?
Well, the first thing is you're probably not walking in unless you're already a client or you have an appointment.
Sure.
We're by appointment only.
Oh, got it.
As soon as you walk through, let's start there.
Yeah.
We start with a discovery call or an in-person discovery meeting, whatever you prefer. The discovery is really for us to figure out, are we the best fit in town to help you? And if we're not, we refer you out. And we're still referring out about 40% of people who inquire, which means we either need to improve our marketing or we're really, really high integrity, one or the other or somewhere in between. Right? So that's step 1. If we think we can help you, we invite you in for a consultation. The discovery call is 30 to 45 minutes. The consultation is 60 to 90. During the consultation, we're evaluating what is it going to take to get you to your goals. Everything it's going to take. After the consultation, we offer you enrollment if we think that it's a good fit. You enroll with 12 personal training sessions. That's all you're buying.
Okay.
We let you know this is how many we think it's going to take. We have a formula that we run people through to get you to not need personal training anymore. Some people opt to stay in personal training forever. Good and bad for us. But we tell them the goal is to get you to an independent state. They buy 12 sessions, and every 12 sessions, we are re-earning their business. We don't resell. It just rolls over unless they tell us that they don't want to do it again.
Sure.
And then every time they come in, they're greeted by a team member who has their program, who is taking them through everything that they need to do.
Does it have to be the same team member?
No. In fact, it's not on purpose.
Okay. Yeah.
One of the things that I've always found as a gym owner and a trainer in gyms is you lose a trainer, you lose a client base.
Yeah.
You lose a coach, you lose a client base.
Yeah.
What am I going to do about the guy who coaches the 6 a.m. leaving? Do I want to coach the 6 a.m.?
There you go.
Or you want to fire somebody who coaches the 6 a.m., but I don't want to go coach the 6 a.m.? So we set it up where every client has a point person, but every client works with every team member. So they have very clear communication with everyone on staff. They have know, like, and trust with everyone on staff.
Yeah.
And we've had staff who've moved on, who I have continued relationships with, whose clients stayed.
Right.
Because they trusted our team.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bigger than the individual.
Absolutely.
Which is by design.
Yes.
So did you recently, is this messaging different than like, obviously you've cracked something?
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of things that have kind of cracked for me.
Yeah.
The most important thing I think that's cracked for me is I struggle to toe the line of being brash and being honest.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what we do. I know exactly how we do it. And I know what everyone else thinks that they do and how they think that they do it. And every time that someone else who thinks they know, like, walks in, they're like, oh, this is completely different. Mm-hmm. And for a long time, I've struggled to be able to describe what we do in a way that isn't meant to say we're better. We're different.
Yeah.
And we're different by design. And what that means is that there's a person who's exactly right for us, and there's a person who's exactly right for you. The thing I've always struggled to articulate without really just being an ass is I know exactly who that is for us, and I'm not sure that you do for you. I think that there are people who a lot of trainers think that they can help, right, because they have that one person, that two, even up to 5 people who really are their outliers. They're coaching a group class, and you look at these 5 people who've transformed their entire lives. Somebody like you would be an example of that if you were in one place the whole time you were going through your change. But they don't look at the 200 people in the canceled file who didn't get those results. And so what happens is they're able to say, look what we did for these 5 people. What that means is that anybody who dedicates themselves to this can get these results. True. True. Why weren't you able to get these 200 people who started to dedicate themselves to doing what it is that you do? That's the thing that we do on purpose. And that's what makes us different.
Let's talk about social media.
Sure.
Let's switch gears, because I think you do a great job of being informative, educational, talking about thought leadership and obviously promoting your business all at the same time, whether it's subtly, like the logo on the shirt. When did you get started leveraging these platforms?
2013. My sister was like, you got to get on Instagram. She's 3 years younger than me.
Okay.
I'm like, shut up. Like, I'm not posting.
Shut up.
I'm not posting photos of kissy faces. Like, I'm not doing it. She's like, you have to get on Instagram. It's the future of business. I'm like, it's not.
Bold statement.
Yeah. I'm
right?
like, it's not.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what you're talking about. So finally, I'm like, fine, I'll do it. I get on Instagram. Robin, you were right? This is where everything has gone.
Yeah.
So 2013, I go on. And
it's crazy to think how long ago 2013 is.
I know.
You know?
But if you look at my old post, like I was doing it yesterday. I was looking for, well, you have to go to Active Life RX to find my old posts.
Got it.
Because that used to be Dr. Sean RX.
Okay.
And then I made the mistake of transitioning my personal brand when it had like 45,000 followers 5 years ago.
Right.
To Active Life.
Okay.
Because I was like, oh, I don't want it to just be me.
Right.
I want it to be us. Instead of starting a new account that would be Active Life. So Active Life RX was me until like 45,000 followers, and it was, oh, let's start me again. Mistake. Don't do that.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, I used to say things that were like, I loved it when
you can't go back, right?
No, I don't even want to.
Yeah.
I like saying provocative things that you can't unhear.
Yeah.
And it's much easier for me to say those things in font than it is for me to say those things out loud.
Sure.
And so I was going back and looking some of the old things I said, and I'm like, damn, that is cutting. And I love that. I would love to say it again. I'm just not in that same world, in that same audience. Like I've said things like, rumor has it, barbell snatching in a group class is a lot of fun. Allegedly, so is cocaine. I don't recommend either. Like, and the world was in my comment section fighting each other. Yeah. And so it grew that way. But it was saying the things that people...
Were there ever like trolls?
Oh my God.
Like you got a ton of that type of...
Yeah, and it wasn't until recently I actually hired someone to help me storytell better. And he said, stop responding to the trolls. I love responding to the trolls. But he's like, when you respond to the trolls, you're just going to get more of them. Instagram thinks these people are engaging with you. This is what you want. Yeah. Great example of that. I made a post not that long ago, like this summer. It said something along the lines of, I'm feeling guilty today because years from now, my daughters are going to hear their friends say, your dad's a DILF, and I have no one to blame except myself. And I had people in the comments section saying things like...
That is too good.
I had trolls. It's got like 16,000 likes on it. And for an account like mine, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Millions of views.
Great.
But I responded to all the trolls. And it went from being like people laughing in the comments to just insanity in my comments. So I don't respond to the trolls anymore.
So, but on that post specifically, was that all font? Like the actual post was like a quote looking? Yeah. Or was it an image and then
It was a video with my kids' softball game blurred out in the background. Okay. And just my profile. And then the words on the screen.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Do you ever get feedback from your family on posts like that? Like, would your wife ever say like, why would you even do that? Nothing.
No, I have there's a great quote by Mark Bell. He says, I grew up with the performance enhancing drug that was parents who loved me unconditionally. And I had the same thing. Yeah. And
likewise,
And I was able to take that love and turn it into a marriage with my wife
Yeah.
that has made me a better version of me in incalculable ways.
Yeah.
Without losing me.
Right.
So she knows who she married.
Yeah.
And I know who I married.
Yeah.
And, when my friends were having bachelor parties, especially the local ones, she was the one stuffing my Ford Explorer with 13 guys, driving us to the strip club, dropping us off and giving me a kiss and saying, hey, no sex with strangers, and then driving home. And of course I never did, but that's who I married. So
Right.
she's not going to look at me putting something like that online.
Yeah.
And be
As
upset about
like, that's strange.
Yeah.
I don't agree with what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And my parents have said, oh, just be careful. You never know who's watching.
Yeah.
And they're right.
Yeah.
And I've had the response to them that, look, I am an intentional version of me on social media that is similar
Yeah.
to the person you would meet in person.
Right.
Toned down 5%, maybe 10%. Because I don't need to say things on there just to piss people off. They have to have intention behind them.
Of course.
But if I say something that I'm very intentional about and somebody has a problem with it where they wouldn't want to work with me as a result of what they read or heard me say, we're not a good fit. Because I'm going to say something like that over the course of our working relationship.
For sure. What are some of the best ways that, best things that have happened as a result of being active on social media?
The best thing, the number of, I've had the opportunity to work with Olympic athletes, with professional baseball players, with more CrossFit Games champions than I imagine any other coach who's ever worked with CrossFit athletes. In the 2017 CrossFit Games, I think there were 40 athletes on site who I was working with, or my partner at the time was working with. All of that is because of social media.
Yeah.
In some way, I think this podcast is a result of social media.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Right. Even though we met through Gabrielle at her event, I think that
Is that when we first met?
Yeah.
We met in Austin for the first time. Okay.
January of this year, December of
Yeah,
last
yeah,
year,
yeah.
it was. I think social media has a lot of great benefits if you look for the benefits.
Sure.
If you look for the problems, you'll find them too.
No, for sure. But it's unless you're really actively using these platforms, people don't understand the power of them.
Right.
Honestly.
Well, look, I can directly.
I'm literally asking you questions I know the answer to. I just want to hear it from you.
I know.
Yeah.
I can literally point to millions of dollars that came through only because I started on Instagram.
Yeah.
Thank you to my sister.
Yeah.
So that's how.
What's her cut?
She doesn't get a cut.
Okay.
She gets. I could. When my parents are we do dinner every Sunday night with my family, and when my parents are out of town, dinner's at my house. I pay for it. That's her cut.
There you go. That's very nice of you. Very, very fair cut.
Yeah.
You just got back from Arizona. You've been speaking more than ever. Let's talk about that.
I've made it a priority to speak on stages because there's a dog in me that wants to prove something, and at the same time, there is a load of self-esteem in me that knows what I have.
Yeah.
And it feels selfish to not share it. And I used to not speak as often because I didn't like the travel, and I frankly didn't like the rejection. I didn't like saying, hey, I'd love to speak at your event, and be told, no, we're going a different direction.
Totally. Who likes that? That's not fun.
Well, I really didn't like. I used to create. I used to create like the Steve Buscemi list on the wall. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. In lipstick.
Yeah. And so now I heard a Steve Jobs quote that I loved, and I was like, that's it. I have a moral obligation to become world class at marketing.
Wow.
Because our product is so life changing for the coaches who buy it and the clients who buy it, that if I don't double down on my ability to message publicly, to create incredible content, I'm just being selfish. I don't want to travel. I don't want to prep 40 hours for every hour that I spend on stage. I don't want to know that my talk is going to end between 18 minutes and 30 seconds and 18 minutes and 40 seconds when you give me a 20-minute window, because I've rehearsed it so many times that I know exactly where it's going to end.
Yeah.
I'd rather be home with my kids sometimes, or with my wife, or out with friends.
Yeah.
But that's selfish. So I've dedicated myself to getting on the biggest podcasts, the biggest stages, and the biggest print media. And I think that's my responsibility.
And you have your own podcast.
I do. I used to have the Active Life podcast that I hosted. You were on that.
Yes.
I got to 650 episodes or so.
650 episodes.
Yeah.
How long was that?
Started that in 2015 or 16.
Okay.
I started that as a fuck you.
Did your sister tell you to start a podcast?
No. I started it because I wanted to get a conversation with somebody who wouldn't get...
Of course it was a fuck you. I can't wait to hear...
I wanted sponsorship to an event.
Yeah.
And the person who ran the event thought really highly of themselves. And they should. They were doing great things. But I couldn't afford the sponsorship. So I started a podcast, and I was like, hey, you're so smart. I'd love to bring you on my podcast to share with the world how smart you are. And asked them a bunch of questions that I knew our sponsorship could actually help their event with. Long story short, we got the sponsorship as a result of the event. Then my business partner at the time told me, you're not going to be able to stay consistent with this. I don't know why you started. And I was already starting to feel some animus between me and him. That. And so I was like, watch me. And so
that was it.
650 episodes without missing a week. We got there. But what I found from that podcast is...
Was it weekly or was it kind of sporadic?
Weekly.
It was always...
It was
you
weekly.
Made sure that
yes.
Even if it wasn't a great guest, you got a podcast on?
If I didn't have a great guest, I did it myself.
Okay. Oh, you did a bunch of self.
Yep.
Yeah,
I bought staffing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I interviewed my mom on there.
That's cool.
And I loved that interview.
That's a great guest, by the way.
She's a great guest. So was my wife.
Terrible example.
Well, she's not a great guest in terms of Instagram's going to blow up the podcast.
Yeah.
But I delegated that podcast to team members because it really, if we're going to do the company what the company deserves, that podcast needs to be for coaches.
Yeah.
And I'm more inspired to talk about origin stories and, internal driving forces and obstacles people overcome and just learning about awesome people. So I am starting another podcast
called the Awesome People Podcast.
It's probably going to be called the Sean Pastuch Show. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Yeah. But
not the Awesome People Podcast?
Not the Awesome People Podcast. Probably not. Maybe relatable content with Sean Pastuch. We'll see. Okay. But and for that one, I am bringing my friends on and people who I want to be friends with.
Right.
And just going deep with them.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
that'll launch in January. We're batching episodes right now.
That's exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah, very exciting. And same studio?
We're redoing the studio.
Okay.
So we're redoing the studio because
Yes.
And we're redoing it because I also want to be able to participate in the Active Life podcast and make it a trio instead of just two guys whenever I can. I have a lot to add.
Yeah, of course.
I just don't enjoy being the question asker. I'd rather be the question answerer in a non-contrived way.
Understood.
So we're rebuilding the studio so it can accommodate 4 guests easily. And so that this is one of those, let's see if you're consistent. I built the studio because my friend Don Saladino was coming in and I was like, Don deserves a studio.
Nice.
That's why we built it. February.
Shout out Don Saladino.
Shout out to Don. That was February of last year. We've used it. So now it's time to make it better.
So where were you doing the podcasts prior to that?
Either remote on Zoom or I would set up a standing desk like Mark Bell in the middle of my, I have a personal gym inside of my office.
Sure.
We would set that up in the middle of that gym with our Turn Pro in the background, and that was the conversation.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, we transitioned to in-person not too long ago, and it's just been such a better opportunity all the way around. The fact that we could spend time after this, you know, and continue the conversation and catch up, it's the best.
Especially when you're having a relative stranger or someone you just met.
Totally,
come on.
yeah.
I like to go on a 45-minute walk before I bring them onto the show. I like to take them into Active Life so that they can see, hey, I just want you to understand where my brain comes from with the questions I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
And I've found that it's a really rich experience. And I got that part from Mark Bell. When I went on his show, we went on a walk first. Showed me around Super Training Gym.
Jeff Fenster did that with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I got the in-studio thing from Gabrielle. She was, I asked her, because she started the podcast well after me. I'm like, how do you get these guests to come in studio? She goes, I just tell them to be better in studio.
Yeah.
Like, that's so obvious.
It is. And, you know, obviously she's been on a rocket ship to the moon. So she's...
and she deserves it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You do as well.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
We're going to get on that rocket ship.
Yeah. There's room on the rocket ship.
There's plenty of room on the rocket ship.
And it's nice that it's so collaborative, you know?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because when you asked me the question about what's the best thing that's happened to me from social media, it's an esoteric answer. I wanted to give you something straightforward, but I think it's actually learning that you can actually measure in real time. The more you give, the more you get.
Yeah.
And so, like, when I go speak on a stage, I want to be the guy who makes that event seen. So my company is going to share about it. I'm going to share about it. And I'm going to do my best to make it look great, like I did before I came in for this podcast.
Yeah.
What happens when you do that, you're not asking people to, but they share your content.
Sure.
And then people who are following them, who don't follow you, see your content, and then they come and they follow you.
Yeah.
So I find that like the metrics on Instagram are amiss because they tell you made this post and one person followed. And you're like, why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
You make that post not so that someone will follow you from it, but so that when you do something worth following, you have a good reference for them to decide if they should follow you or not.
Do you have any strategies that you use with your Instagram stories?
No.
Because you're very good at them.
I appreciate
and you're consistent. And that's rare. There's not many people other than you and I who are as consistent about Instagram stories. And I think they're intentionally, kind of in your brain, you're producing your day.
I think I have some advantages for that. My kids are interesting.
Yeah.
My third kid is a lunatic. And everybody loves to laugh with my third kid.
Yeah.
And my kids humanize me because I have a very go attitude.
Totally.
And so when people see like, oh, he's got this loving wife, these beautiful kids, he's a real person. So it behooves me to do that.
Yeah.
I just share my life.
Yeah.
I share the behind the scenes.
Have you always done that? Is that?
No. Maybe 2 years. Okay. I share my life in a way that is protective of what I don't need people to know, right? Sure. Like we're not, I'm not like, I don't use my kids' names. Yeah. They're 1, 2, 3, 4. My wife's name, sure. And I love the back and forth with her. I think it's fun to do that on there. I'm in the city today, so it's easy to forget. Most people have never been to this city. And so as I walk around the city, I'm talking to people about what I'm going by, what I'm experiencing. When a thought pops into my brain, like I got here today at 10:19, but the podcast was at 11. And I dislike personally when people show up early for things because then I feel like it's my responsibility to move from what I'm doing to get to them.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I show up on time.
Yeah.
So I got here at 10:19. I took a train that got me into the city an hour and 20 minutes early instead of one that got me 14 minutes early that would have got me close on time.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? People would probably value learning why I took the earlier train and why I'm not going in early. Right. So I'm going to tell that story as I do it.
Amazing. I love that.
Thank you.
It's a unique philosophy too, because I always build in time because I have being late is like the worst thing that could possibly happen to me. And it's so stressful. So I'm always early, but I'm able to do what I need to do wherever I am anyway. So I'm not like missing a beat. But the thing about arriving early is interesting because I'll arrive usually around 10 minutes early, but I don't like notify anybody. I don't have expectations, but I'm there, just because I'm psychotic about being
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I posted today.
Yeah.
I was out in front of this building 41 minutes before the podcast was supposed to start.
Got it.
So I told my audience, I'm here. Now we're going to go get lost in Manhattan for a little bit.
Yeah.
We're going to go for a walk, get our steps in.
Yeah.
And we're going to come back with time to be on time for the podcast.
Yeah.
So I got back here, I think it was 10:55, came upstairs, used the restroom. We're here at 10:59. Yeah.
Speaking of getting your steps in, what do you do personally? Do you have a routine that you like to
work out or to get my steps in?
Just your day, right? Like how do you structure your day?
I'm up at 5.
Yeah.
And I'm not rushing to get out of the house. I'm up at 5. When I'm ready to get out of the house, typically around 5:35, 5:45, I'm into active life or into a Muay Thai gym, whichever one like the day is falling on.
Sure.
And I'm training no later than 5:50, 6 a.m. I'm done by 7. I drive home. I make breakfast for the whole family. Go upstairs, take a shower.
You're making me look bad.
Listen, success for me is getting 2 hours of quality time with my kids and my wife every day.
Yeah.
And being home by 6 for dinner.
Love that.
That's it. Like if I can do that, we're successful for the day.
Yeah.
Because especially if I can be at dinner.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you know what I'm describing with that.
We were talking about this before the cameras were rolling.
Yeah. What I'm talking about with this for people to understand is there's been nights I'm home at 6 and I'm not there. So I'm not talking about just physically being there. I'm talking about being there. Phone's in the drawer.
I feel that.
Right? So in order to get to that place, I need to have had a successful day. That's my entire metric.
Yeah.
And if I chart out what successful days are meant to achieve over time, I can trust that if I'm home for dinner at 6 o'clock, focused on my kids and my wife, I'm moving towards our long-term ambition.
Yeah.
Now, there's travel involved, and that, of course, doesn't count. And I don't win every day.
Yeah.
But that's always the goal. So after training, kids go to school. I stay home until about 9 o'clock. I get some work done from home while my wife walks the kids to school because we have the infant upstairs sleeping, taking his nap between like 8:30 and 10. When she gets home, I give her a hug and a kiss. I walk to work, often barefoot. And when I get to work, we start.
Barefoot, regardless of the weather.
I don't do it every day. I probably go barefoot now like once or twice a week.
Yeah.
And my favorite.
But even when the temps drop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite thing was, and by the way, that's not because I know something anyone else doesn't know.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to ground. I like to do random things sometimes that just remind me to be present. So like when I feel my feet cold against the ground, I'm like, oh yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
I have a really hard time living in now.
Well, fortunately, you're in an area where walking barefoot is not that strange.
I don't think I would do it in Manhattan.
That's
too dirty. But I used to love during like when COVID was at its peak.
Yeah.
And people would pull down their masks to smoke a cigarette and tell me how dangerous what I was doing was. I'm like, I don't know if we're on the same latitude.
This is not landing coming from you. Yes. Did this routine, has this routine for you been going on for a long time? Has COVID changed it? Are you intentional about constantly modifying because you're in a different season?
Mm-hmm. So this routine, the 5 a.m. thing, that started about a year ago.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at my body and saying, what happened to that?
Yeah.
Like you used to be really lean, very strong, and everyone who would look at you would know that you take working out and eating very seriously.
Yeah.
And it didn't look that way anymore.
Yeah.
I still looked fairly healthy compared to the normal population, but not compared to me.
Yeah.
And so I joined the Muay Thai gym because they had a class at 6 a.m. And I'm like, I will be late for myself.
Yeah.
I won't be late for you. So I joined the Muay Thai gym. And I love fighting in a controlled environment. And so I joined that gym because I'm always going to be on time for somebody else. And I realized the reason I wasn't waking up that early is I was staying up too late. Why was I staying up too late? I was watching Netflix. I was vegging out.
Yeah.
Why was I vegging out? I needed to. Why did I need to? My day was too stressful. Why was my day too stressful? I was taking on too much. I wasn't delegating to people who could do it and actually do it better than me. So I started to identify all of these things, and everything about my life has been better since I started to do it. It has nothing to do with waking up at 5.
Yeah.
It's the reasons I decided to wake up at 5.
Do you drink alcohol?
Very, very rarely. I would say maybe once a month, and we're talking about a drink.
Yeah.
Not drinking.
No. Was that ever an issue for you?
No. Like I drank a lot in college.
Times, like typical.
Yeah.
Social.
I never had trouble with alcohol.
Yeah.
I never had trouble with drugs, but I do have an obsessive personality, and I also have I need my back against the wall to function at my best mentality. And so some of the mistakes I've made in the past would be to create a reason for my back to be against the wall when a reason didn't exist. And so the business would be doing really well. Family would be doing really well. Right? And I would fuck it up.
Yeah.
Unconsciously on purpose.
Yeah.
And then I could come and save the day.
Do you also oftentimes, that resonates with me tremendously. Do you also start new things because the thing you're working on is like gets boring at times? Like, do you?
I have.
Yeah, right?
I have. So
it's a similar trait, I feel like.
Well,
right?
to give you an example, I've created product lines for our company, and I made it everybody else's problem to sell them because I was like, we need this.
Yeah.
Hindsight, launching education for coaches when we did was a mistake.
Right.
It was too early.
Right.
Now, how would we have taken on the client demand of one-on-one coaching when I didn't have a way to develop coaches? I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I've done so many things like that. I don't do them anymore. My only job now is to be the megaphone for our company and to make sure that we keep a safe and inspiring work environment for our staff and clients to work towards a mutually shared mission. Yeah. That's it. That's
one of the biggest changes that we made at Sabre was I was always just able to make my own decisions, right? And like implement them, and this is what we're doing, and da-da-da-da. And a lot of them were great. A lot of them were terrible, right? Like many entrepreneurs or innovators or whatever it is. And we changed that structure to leadership. So, which has been so great because I feel like the pressure's off too, in a lot of ways, right? Where I love hearing other people's perspectives, and some are similar, some are the complete polar opposite. And it's so nice to talk through these with other intelligent people that all have the same goal.
Yep.
Right. And that's just a part of growth.
Yeah, we did the same thing.
Yeah.
And recently, I started thinking about that from the lens of like, they need to be on the same level I am. And they need to think of themselves as on the same level I am. And so that's how Mary, who runs our whole company.
Yeah,
like,
she's great.
She's a rock star.
Yeah, shout out Mary.
What's that?
Shout out
to Mary
Mary.
Banks.
Yeah.
She came to your Win Where It Matters.
Yeah.
And it was a great thing for her. I told her, I was like, hey, Gabrielle's tickets went on sale for Forever Strong next year.
Yeah.
I'm buying one for me. I think you should come. She's like,
what
do
are the
it.
dates again?
I think April 26th and 27th, I think, in Houston.
Amazing. Everybody needs to check that out. We will most definitely be there.
I created some really useful and valuable relationships at that event last year that I don't typically get at events.
This happened.
This being one of
this is one of that. Yeah, it's funny because you and I have spent a good amount of time together in the last year, so I didn't even realize that that's where we first met.
Well, I think there's a lesson there for people who want it.
Yeah.
And that is, I always used to, so I'll share kind of the combative mindset that I can go to and then the collaborative mindset I can change it to. I used to go to events and think I should be on that stage, to every stage. I should be on that stage. Those speakers aren't as good as me. I could do that. And I decided, and also who's going to be there that I can meet and climb a social ladder with.
Right.
That's how I used to go to things like that.
Right.
Last year, I decided I'm going to go completely differently because that's not working. I'm going to go to this event and share a core value that I put into our company, which is reveal the exceptional in everyone we come across. So all I'm going to do the whole time is find reasons to believe everybody there is exceptional and help them see it for themselves. That was the whole way I approached that event. I've never left an event with more opportunity, more new friends, and more gratification than I did from that event.
Yeah.
Just from changing my mindset from trying to be impressive to trying to be impressed.
I love that. That's really, I think a lot of people can take from that because mindset's everything. And when you walk into a room, if you're looking at it the way that your maybe less developed, immature, selfish self was thinking about it, right? We've all been there where it's just, you know, you want to meet the person that is the most well-known, is the most important in the room, right? To that mindset's really, really interesting. And as a result, I'm not surprised you got more out of that event.
It's a hard one to embrace because you have to trust a process that is not having the attachment to anything that you do.
Yeah.
Like I go to the event, I just want to make that person feel great.
Yeah.
And I don't care.
That person meaning the person hosting the event or anybody that you're interacting with. Yeah.
Look, the reason I bought tickets to the event in the first place was I wanted to make sure that she knew.
Yeah.
I'm your friend and I'll be there.
Support you.
And for people who are new to this kind of space, buy the ticket. Right. I didn't ask her for a VIP ticket. I bought the VIP ticket.
Right.
Without any conversation. The day they went on sale this time, I bought two.
Yeah.
So that's one. But the other side of that is anybody who's in front of you. Like I watched Jason Redman speak at her event last year. And if you don't know who Jason Redman is, look him up. And I thought to myself, I can't do what he just did.
Well,
that was
for good reason. His story is very different than yours.
I don't mean the story.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't grab an audience by the throat the way he did in the first 2 seconds of his talk and then make them laugh 5 seconds later and then bring them down and then bring them up, keep everybody engaged and make everybody inspired to the point he got a standing ovation when he was done. I am not the speaker that Jason Redman is. I was able to align myself with that at the event. So I made friends with Jason Redman. And now I'm trying to be around him and be valuable to him as much as
he has a program that develops.
I was at his first event to do that. I helped him at that event.
Amazing. Great guy.
Phenomenal guy. But the point is, if I went in there with the mindset of I should be up there.
Yeah.
It would have been.
It's funny. I don't have that. Like I don't. I don't even necessarily aspire for that, you know?
I think part of it is, for me at least, that I'm trying to advocate for the people who need the services that we offer that the rest of the industry thinks that they're offering but aren't close to.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think you are obligated to do that.
Right. Like there was a woman who stood up. I'll share an example, but and the other thing is income, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously, I want to make a lot of money helping a lot of people. Let's not just be. Yeah. I'm not some mega altruist. I want to do well with this, and I want my team to do.
And you
well.
deserve to.
I agree. So there's all of that is in like the status game.
Sure.
But the push for status is the wrong way to acquire it. There was an example at the event last year. This woman stood up. I imagine you wouldn't remember this. And she goes,
might. Continue.
I'm in my late 50s. I'm postmenopausal. I have these injuries. I don't know what to do to train. Who's going to help me? I haven't heard anybody talk about me. And the person from the stage gave her a really good answer for where their world is.
Yeah.
It needs to be you. It needs to be you, somebody like you. Maybe you can be the person who can help people like you so that it comes across credibly.
I remember that.
And I'm sitting in my chair saying, it's me.
Correct.
It's active life.
Yes.
And this woman is not actually representing people who are in their late 50s, female postmenopausal. It's a woman who is talking about compromise that she has to make in her life that she doesn't understand the root of and she wants to be rid of. And that's what we do. And so for me, I want to be on those stages so that I can help that woman who is in every audience at every event that I'm at and isn't being spoken to in a way that she's helped.
Did you find that woman after?
I didn't because I was, I didn't. I don't have a good reason why not.
I feel like you needed to the same
way
that you need to be on a stage.
I agree.
Sharing that information.
And there was a lesson in that from me. So at the event I was recently at with you, Kenny's event, I heard a guy ask a question. And the question he asked to the people on stage was, all of my clients are coming in because of my personal brand. They're not coming in because of the company.
Yeah.
How do I start to shift that? And he asked two guys who gave him really good answers from their experience, but generally speaking, are personal brands themselves.
Right.
And so I could tell he didn't get the answer that he wanted.
Right.
I sent him a message afterwards saying, hey, I thought the answers that those guys gave you were really awesome answers, and they're both friends of mine. And if you did, it seemed to me though like you didn't get what you wanted from it. And so if that's true, I would love to chat with you because I've made a lot of mistakes in trying to do what it is that you described wanting. He wrote back like, I would love that.
Yeah.
So we connected, we've become friends, and I learned the lesson of that woman in the room to not allow that to pass.
Yeah. I feel like that's one of the best parts. I'm not in the mindset that you are when you're at an event. It's funny because and Danielle and I were talking, my wife and I were talking about this last night. I'm actually an introvert. So like when I'm in these bigger rooms, it's just exhausting, right? I have a certain amount of energy and I intentionally utilize that energy in a certain way. So I can't talk to every person in the room. However, I go in not really with a strategy, but while I'm there, I'm creating my strategy, and I'm definitely leaving and my follow up, with how I could help people that I might not even. I've gotten really good at reaching out to people, whether it's by email or text or DM, after an event that I never spoke to at the event, and becoming really good friends with them, like as a follow up. And I think that's a lesson too, because people probably wouldn't realize how receptive people are. And I think if you have, let's be honest, Instagram is very much your business card nowadays, right? Like
it's a reference tool.
It is. So if I reach out to you and you see who I'm connected to, you're going to respond. Whether or not we end up, having a conversation, meeting in person or whatever, it's like a credibility tool. It's, most people don't really take it that seriously to get started because they're like, well, I don't have a really exciting profile, so I'm not going to reach out to anybody, or why am I going to post? Or, that's a really big mistake. You realize that, fortunately for you, 11, 12 years ago now.
There's a few things you said that I want to touch on.
Yeah.
One is think of your Instagram or your social media as a resume, not as a billboard. Like people are not coming to you because of your Instagram, but people are being told about you and then going to your Instagram.
Correct. Yeah.
So
it's like a website.
Yes. And I saw a phenomenal post the other day that said, there is nobody in the world less like me than the me who was posting status updates to Facebook 10 years ago. I'm like, that is so true.
That is so true.
Like I've thought, like if I ever ran for office, I would have to have someone go back and scrub old Facebook posts.
Yeah,
because
definitely you, based on what you said.
For sure. But the other thing about that is, I'm not an extrovert, and I'm curious your opinion. I feel like at events like that, for me to be successful, I have to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to go to events like that and not just talk to everybody and try to make everybody happy and have the conversations. And people stop me and I don't want to be like, oh yeah, we can take the photo and then walk away.
Right.
And I love it when I'm doing it.
Of course.
And then later in the day, I'm like, I don't want to cook dinner. I don't even want to eat dinner.
Me too.
I'm just going to lay down.
Yeah, that's how I get.
Do you think acquiring the taste for extroversion when you're in the building phase of your company or your entrepreneurial journey is useful, or do you think that it can be done without it?
It's a great question. I think you're obligated in a way, right, in the building phase for sure, because we wouldn't, listen, if all things were equal and our businesses were going to be as successful as they could possibly be without us doing anything on Instagram or having a podcast, I mean, we'd probably choose not to.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely feel obligated to do these things because I'm a marketer by nature. So I know that attention is extremely important. And don't get me wrong, like I could be on stage, literally like grab the microphone on stage at a wedding and like sing a song or rap, whatever, and have no problem doing that. And that's very natural to me. So I don't mind that attention in that moment if I feel some type of way. But it's more about the individual constant conversations over and over again that I find really exhausting. So it's actually interesting. So like from what I just said, being a speaker would be so much more productive because I'm just getting the attention and I can leave.
Well, yes, and
yeah.
I think the best speakers, the one what I always pay attention to at events, and I have this back and forth in my own brain about it, is who spoke and stayed.
Totally.
And who spoke and left.
Totally.
And the back and forth I have is like, well, maybe they were so busy, but they made it a point to fly in for an hour and then fly out. Give them credit for that.
Yep. Or they had I was just with Jesse Itzler, and he literally had a bone out because he had his son's basketball game. And he said that. I admire that.
I hired Jesse Itzler as a mentor.
Yeah.
In 2018.
You told me that.
Because I heard him speak at a mastermind. I had a $45,000 check in my pocket that I don't know how I was going to fulfill. But I was going to give it to the guy. And I didn't resonate with the way that the guy running the mastermind was talking. I was like, every time you say impact, I think you mean to say income. And that's fine, but just say income. And then Jesse spoke. And he talked about this one time in his life when he had to fly home. He was launching Living with a Seal.
Yeah.
And he had like Good Morning America and the Today Show the next day, but his son had a swim meet.
Yeah.
So he did Good Morning America, and then I could be mixing the shows up, right? But he did the show. He flew home, watched his son have a swim meet, took him for like pizza and ice cream or something like that, and then flew back to do the next show the next day.
Yeah.
I was like, that's impact.
That's impact.
That's what I want to make money to do.
Right.
And so I ripped up the check that was in my pocket and hassled Jesse, if you will, for about 6 months until he finally agreed to mentor me. And he's the best example of what you're talking about.
Totally.
Like he makes the time, but he only has that time. He's valuing everything else too.
Yeah.
So I go back and forth.
Yeah. And we will continue to go back and forth, and we will continue to have amazing conversations like this, but we're running over, which I'm not surprised because we could talk forever.
Sure, we can wrap it up.
We don't have a choice. I'd love to keep going. And we will keep going. It'll just be off camera, off mic.
Yeah.
Where can everybody find you, Dr. Sean?
They can find me at Dr. Sean Pastuch on Instagram or on LinkedIn, and anything that they want to find about my businesses, my life, is linked to there.
Amazing. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for coming.
I appreciate you bringing me on.
I just wanna have peace. Pay for the bill, let them take my card, never see the receipt. Good health, we prize, but everybody around prosperity. I just wanna have peace.